Okay, so here we are, the Fourth and Gold podcast, ready for playoffs to start. Wildcard weekend, 2 days away. So let's kick it off straight away. We've got the first game on Saturday evening, Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. What are your thoughts on these games, guys? Who wants to start us off?
I'll go ahead. I'll start us off. So Browns Texans. Now this game to me is like it's the perfect way to like lead into wildcard weekend. It's the old timer Flacco against the young rookie CJ Stroud, and it's Cleveland's defense against the rookie. What are they going to bring to the game to potentially confuse this rookie? What kind of scheme and what coverages and what blitzes are they going to bring to confuse the Texans O-line and CJ Stroud? Now, I happen to think that much as I'd love the Texans to pull this off and the rookie to do it, I think the Browns, with their experience and playoff Joe Flacco, are going to pull it out on the road. And their defense is going to force at least one turnover. I don't really trust the Texans defense, especially their secondary. And playoff Joe Flacco, he is money going back historically in the playoffs. So yeah, I think it's a bad matchup for the Texans. The Browns were obviously in division with the Ravens. The Ravens being the number one seed, the Browns were the team that no division winner wanted to see come to town. And I think it's going to be bad news for the Texans. It's been a hell of a story. They've had a hell of a season. They were, what did we project them to be? I think the maximum number of wins any of us three gave them at the start of the season was about 5. So for them to make the playoffs, one hell of a run, but I think it comes to an end this Saturday.
Okay. I think looking at they played a few weeks ago, didn't they? 36-22, although there was a couple of garbage touchdowns in there, garbage time touchdowns. So it was about 36-7, wasn't it, when they started resting players and they got a few points at the end. That was without CJ Stroud. The Browns, I think I saw today, are going to be without Ward, which is going to be a big miss in the secondary. So that's going to be music to a certain Stroud's ears. Because that is, if you're going to get at this Browns defense, that is it's not a weakness, but that is the weaker part of the defense where you can try to utilize. The pass rush is scary. We all know what Myles Garrett has done this year and for many years now, so it's not going to be a nice evening for CJ Stroud. It's in Texas. I do like that. If it was in Cleveland, I would be edging Cleveland in this game. I'm not sure what the spread is. I'd imagine it's something around 2 or 3 points in Cleveland's favor.
2.5.
2.5. There you go. I do like the experience. Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper, they just seem to be connected right now. The numbers that they've both put up. Cooper should be fit from what I understand, or fit enough to go. Flacco has shown everyone, like how bad, well, not how bad, it's the wrong word to say, but how good is Deshaun Watson still playing when Flacco can come in and put these numbers up? And Watson didn't do much better, if any better whatsoever, at the beginning of the year. It's a very short window we're looking at, so try not to get overexcited with this. It's a long way of getting to my answer here. I believe when we get to January and February, defense wins you a football match. I really want to say Cleveland because I think they're going to win. But there's just something about CJ Stroud that I can't go against him. So I'm going to go with D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud to pull off a little upset. I don't think it's a major upset, but I'm going with the Texans to win. Again, I think they play in a dome, don't they? Is it in a dome?
Yep.
Yeah. So the weather isn't going to play the part. You give CJ Stroud the time. You give him the conditions. He's proven all year when he's been playing, he's as accurate as they come. He had a bit of a rusty week in his first week back, still not a bad week. And last week you saw first play of the game, 75 yards on a dime. That just thing of beauty. So I'm going for Houston to win. Close game. I see this being final possession, probably a field goal to win it. One thing I didn't mention, Hopkins is out for Cleveland. That's going to be a big miss. The pressure kicks, then 3 points here, 3 points there. You'll probably see Cleveland going for it on fourth down a few times when they're probably around the 30, 35 yard line. I doubt they're going to be. I don't know who they've got in as their kicker for this week, but probably not someone they're trusting for a 52-yard field goal like Hopkins would comfortably be trusted for. Over to you, Jay.
Yeah, very interesting. You both made really good points. I mean, I go into this being a CJ Stroud fan, just happy that he's getting this first playoff opportunity. Like, I think this experience, win, lose, or blowout, whatever happens, I think this is really good for him and this young Texans team, you know, as they hopefully will ascend over the next few years and get more opportunities. So this is a great start, rookie year, playoff experience. D'Amico Ryans does have a lot of experience that he can sort of put on these youngsters, though. He's been to back-to-back NFC championships with the 49ers, at least as a defensive coordinator. So, you know, he will have them ready. But it's playoff Joe Flacco, isn't it? Like, I think I saw a stat today. He has won the most wild card playoff games in NFL history. So he knows how difficult this road is. And the Browns basically used last week as a bye week because Amari Cooper was banged up. I think Myles Garrett has been carrying injury. So everyone, I guess apart from maybe Ward, who won't make it, everyone's had that kind of the benefit of that extra rest. Whereas the Texans, they had to basically play a playoff game last Saturday night in Indianapolis. I totally agree with you, Rob. I think that Joe Flacco has given the Browns their best passing attack of the year, of the, I guess, the four quarterbacks that they've had this year, including Deshaun Watson. And Amari Cooper's been obviously, you know, his main target, if you like. But I would say there's a co-main target that has emerged, and it is David Njoku.
Touchdown machine.
You want to talk about like the most like unexpected yards after catch machine? It's this guy. So, you know, Joe Flacco has taken this team to another level that it didn't have earlier in the year, even with Deshaun. And I feel like the passing game opens up their run game. It's not the traditional we'll get the run going and then it opens up the passing game. It's almost the opposite. And I think that does not bode well for the Texans, who did not do a very good job against the run last week. If this was in Cleveland, I agree, Rob. I actually think that the Browns would probably win by 2 scores. But it's in Houston, and I expect the Texans, I expect CJ Stroud to give a strong account of themselves. But I am going to roll only just with the Browns. I say Browns 23, Texans 20. They cover the spread. I think that puts them under the over-under of 44.5. I believe it was when I saw it.
Correct.
So, yeah, a great season comes to an end for CJ Stroud and the Texans, and playoff Joe and the Browns maybe just maybe set up a little grudge match potentially against Baltimore.
Perfect. So what we can do, I've got in front of me our beginning of the season predictions for the division. So we can do it for each team that's playing. So start off with myself, not that I'm going to paint myself in a good picture here. I had Cleveland at 9-8 at the beginning of the year. And I had the Texans at 2-15 at the beginning of the year. So a little bit off there. Paul,
wait till you hear mine.
Paul, you had 8-9, the Browns, and you had Texans at 4-13. So similar, a little bit off. Now Jay, he's got like a bit of like positive and a bit of negative. He was bang on with Cleveland, 11-6, but he did have them finishing fourth in the conference, in the division. Sorry.
But I did have them as a wild card.
You did. But where you lose all of that is with your Texans prediction. 1-16. So you were, but you did get an exact 11-6. So it does counteract each other. So there we go on that game. Now, next game on Saturday night, we have Miami Dolphins at Kansas City Chiefs. One of the NFL international games being replayed. That game could have gone a hell of a lot different if the first half were a little bit different with Miami, and if Kansas learned how to score in the second half at that point of the year. Paul, what are you thinking on this game?
Yeah, so this one, of all the games, is the one I'm having trouble with the most because I don't like either of these teams heading into the playoffs. But I have to pick somebody, and based on what I've seen most recently, the Dolphins are literally limping into the playoffs. They're down multiple players, injured, and we all said it, that you don't win the Super Bowl in October, November. They were absolutely flying at that time of year. And now they've committed, I think, the Cardinals' sin of losing the division that they should have won. And now they go on the road to Kansas City in January. If it's not snowing, then it's going to be damn cold. I just think momentum is a huge thing in the playoffs. Miami should have been the number 2 seed. But on the flip side, I don't really like how Kansas City are going into the playoffs. The one thing, though, is that they're playing at home. They do have a defense. They do have home field advantage. And I think, and they've got the experience. Miami haven't won a playoff game since I think the very early 2000s, I believe it was. I'm going to say that Kansas City are going to pull it out in a fairly close game. Miami couldn't beat them in Germany when they were at probably their peak. And I think Kansas are better situationally. They're better coached, and I think they'll pull this out. I see Kansas winning this 27-20. 27-20 Chiefs. I make the score. Kansas move on.
You hit the nail on the head with this game. It's a really hard game to pick, not because they're two great teams, but they're two teams that, like you mentioned, they're limping into the playoffs. Miami are physically limping into these playoffs because most of their guys are on crutches right now, or just coming off of crutches. You got the injury bug has got them. They've lost quite a few players on D. I think they lost a couple of extra at the weekend. Big players on that D line, and that defensive setup in Miami were really starting to turn it on about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was looking like they were meaning business, and they could have got to the Super Bowl, I felt, if everyone stayed healthy. But it's just been one after the other. Waddle being out has killed them. Just meant teams just knew, right, we need to shut down Hill. When he's there, if they shut down Hill, Waddle can comfortably go for over 200 if you leave him. He's a monster playmaker in his own right. I don't think Mostert has been missed as much because A-Chain has been so electric. But again, being able to keep them both fresh, these are all little things that add up. The reason they haven't won a playoff game for God knows how many years, like you mentioned, since the early 2000s probably, is because they've been in the conference with New England. So when they get into the wild card games, whether it be New England or New York or Buffalo, where they're going, because they're not usually at home or wherever they're going, not just in their division, they're usually going somewhere cold. And where are they going this Saturday? They're going somewhere cold. I'm starting to be a little concerned about whether McDaniel has got. He's just a bit young, I feel, from a coaching standpoint, and a bit immature. Maybe a bit like Shanahan when he was at the Falcons, going back to that Super Bowl. He just made some stupid decisions, and he's learned from them clearly. And I think McDaniel was still learning to be that elite level coach. I think he will get there. I don't have any doubt. I like McDaniel a lot. I always have concerns, injuries or not, when you get battered 56-19 by a rival, that's where you've got to have your players stand up, and you've got to have a bit of respect for yourselves, guys. You can't lose 56-19. And then last week against Buffalo, the game was there for the taking. Allen, 2 interceptions on their first 2 possessions, gave him every opportunity. Then Tua throws one back at them. It was just messy football. I think this is largely down to the injuries, like I mentioned. This team can only win if they're fully healthy in big games against really good teams, because they need the deep threat. They need to pass the ball. Tua, if he's having to throw in tight windows, will get found out sooner rather than later. So I'm going with Kansas to win this game. I haven't really spoken much about Kansas purely because I feel they're lucky playing Miami, who are a beaten up team, and they're playing at home in the cold. Mahomes will step it up, a bit like you said, Jay, last week with Cleveland. A lot of their players are going to be fresh, a week to get right if they've had any niggling injuries that Miami didn't have. And you trust Coach Reid against McDaniel, who's been there. Reid's been there. McDaniel hasn't, and I imagine that will play out at the end. I imagine I'm looking probably similar to you, Paul, probably 24-20. Maybe 23-20, something along them lines, the score. I think that's being quite generous. I think it wouldn't surprise me if both teams were under 20 points. But I'm going to go, go with 23-20 final score, Kansas City. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, so I'm just going to give you a couple of stats to start this off. The Jets and the Patriots have beaten more teams above 500 this year than the Dolphins. The Dolphins only managed to beat the Cowboys. The Dolphins have also lost 8 straight games where the temperature was 40 degrees or below. And obviously, I'm not talking UK 40 degrees.
Yeah.
I read today that apparently this game on Saturday will be the coldest game in Miami Dolphins franchise history. So they've got some work to do to end that streak. I mean, you guys said it. They're banged up. I mean, we're talking a lot of injuries. Waddle, obviously, Chubb's gone for the year on defense. Armstead, the left tackle, I feel like he's carrying multiple injuries. Mm-hmm. Even Hill with his ankle, that's not fully.
A-Chain with his toe, and the cold weather makes everything feel worse.
Yeah, exactly. And the point you made, Rob, about McDaniel. I don't know if you guys have watched any of the Hard Knocks in season, but I've watched a few of those episodes, and it's all too nice. Like, it's all like nicey. You know, we lost. Oh well, like we'll get them next time, sort of like stuff. And I'm like thinking, like, you've got to have some angry moments as well in the building. Like, it can't just all be a fairy tale and haha, we missed the throw. Oh well, we'll get it next time. Like, it's all a bit too nice, I think. So this is a difficult ask for them, I think, especially coming off that massive loss to the Ravens. But it's the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs' biggest problem now, I know they've had record, or not record, but they lead the league in drops. I think it's Nagy. I think Nagy's the biggest problem. The play calling on offense is so stale. It's not a good offense to watch, honestly. And it takes some effort to make Mahomes kind of look not fun to watch. I mean, difficult to pick either of these teams to go far, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I seem to remember in Germany that the Dolphins basically doubled Kelsey the entire game.
Yep.
I think they would do that again. Maybe his play as of late doesn't really warrant that, but this is the playoffs now, so you don't want to kind of, let that grizzly bear wake up. So I would definitely do that because that works really well. Now, Rashee Rice has come on since that game. He will have to have a big game, I think, for the Chiefs. Yeah, I can't.
Have the personnel. The guys that doubled Kelsey, are they healthy, or I'm not sure who?
Good question. I can't. I don't even remember who was covering him at that point.
I mean, the
maybe
linebacker that did his ACL.
Jalen Phillips?
I don't know if he might have been the one that.
Yeah. Or will they just say, look, Jalen Ramsey, you just follow? They haven't really been getting Ramsey to follow though, and Ramsey, I feel like, has been used in a different way to the way the Rams used him. The Rams were just like, we're going to use Ramsey as a Swiss Army knife everywhere, but it feels like he's playing more traditional corner. With the Dolphins. Yeah, long story short, I don't think this will be a great game to watch. I think the Chiefs will get the job done, though. 21-16, I'm going to say. The Dolphins will just score one touchdown, and they'll be settling for field goals and punts for most of the night, and probably interceptions. So I think that means the Chiefs cover, and I think that means it's under. I think I saw it earlier, 43.5. So yeah, Chiefs win, Chiefs cover, under.
Okay, so looking at our beginning of season predictions, I went with Miami to go 10-7. So I was one off with Miami, and with Kansas I went 13-4. So I think they finished 11-6, right? Was it 11-6 or 12-5?
I think it's 11-6.
Yeah, that was two off there. Paul, you went with Miami at 10-7, same as me, and with Kansas you went 12-5. And Jay, you went 9-8 with Miami, and Kansas 11-6. So spot on there again, 2 for 2 with spot ons. So perfect. Going into game 3 of the playoffs. We'll start off with Paul's Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. And I believe TJ Watt's out, isn't he?
He is. He is. And that was how I was going to lead off. My prediction for this game was how predictable really it is that we find the Steelers in the playoffs with a winning record. However, they're going against the Bills, who, despite being pretty unimpressive last week against the Dolphins and even the week before against the Patriots, I think, and it pains me to say, just overmatch the Steelers. And I think it's a pretty bad matchup for Pittsburgh, especially without TJ Watt, because you have to get Josh Allen to move and you have to get him off the spot. And I think the Steelers have done extremely well, talent-wise, to make it to the playoffs, but I think this is the end of the run. The Bills' defense, statistically, is really, really good. Like, they average 18 points a game they're giving up throughout the season, which surprised me when I looked it up. That's bad news for the Steelers, who, despite everybody going mad because Mason Rudolph has suddenly discovered how to play quarterback, it was against the Bengals, the Seahawks, and the Ravens' second string. And he wasn't good against the Ravens' second string, admittedly, in a monsoon. But let's not get carried away with Mason Rudolph. He is who we thought he was. He's just, played against the Bengals and the Seahawks. This is a bad matchup for Pittsburgh. The only way they can be successful is running the ball and getting a turnover. Without TJ Watt, that becomes a lot more difficult. Buffalo, Josh Allen needs the running game to turn up. He can't be the leading rusher in the playoffs because they, more than any other team in the NFL, ride and die with their quarterback. He is everything to this team. Stephon Diggs, where have you been? Pretty much the whole regular season. He needs to turn up. Jay's friend, Gabe Davis, or playoff Gabe Davis, usually turns up this time of year. So expect him to have a few big plays. The spread's 10. I think the Steelers could cover the 10, but I see them losing by a touchdown. I think it's fairly low scoring. Buffalo 23, Pittsburgh 17. I make it.
Okay. So I've seen it looks as though Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be playing this weekend, which is definitely good, but it's not going to deal with the big hole that TJ Watt's going to leave. You double him, even treble him on some plays, and you don't replace that. And he's the heartbeat, the life and soul of your defense, isn't he? He's like without him, and you've already missed the guy. You already got the guy on the other side. Is it Holcomb who's out as well for the other?
Holcomb's been out for pretty much the season.
Been out for ages. Yeah. But together, they were a scary combination. So the fact that you're going to be without both of them, I'm not going to lie, I'm scared for the Steelers. I think they're going to get their asses whooped this Sunday. I see Buffalo covering the spread. They're at home. At home, they're a different beast. They've made so many teams look bang average at home over the last few years. Allen, when it comes to playoffs, it just seems to get into that vision, like Tiger Woods on a Sunday. You just sort of get into the zone. And yeah, I remember the Buffalo, was it last year when they absolutely hammered the Pats when they scored on every possession, or was it the year before that? I can't remember, but they turn it up, and I couldn't see them getting to the playoffs not that long ago. And they've done it. They're the scariest team for me in this playoffs. They're the team that probably no one wants to play because if they turn up, they're more than a handful for anyone. There are questions, but I don't see how Pittsburgh are going to put enough points up against this defense. Buffalo's defense has played really well. Leslie Frazier has done another good job with this D. And you got Rudolph, who, as you mentioned, the opposition haven't exactly been great. Pittsburgh just about beat the Ravens' second string. Like that, let's be honest, they just about won, but that was a close game for a long period of that match, and that was without 6, 7, 8 starters. Like the whole offense basically weren't there in terms of running backs, quarterback, and wide receivers. I know Roquan Smith didn't play at all. I know some of the defense did, but and they still struggled. Admittedly, the weather was horrendous, but I'm going to go with Buffalo to win, and I'm going to say they're going to win 31-6.
They won 6.
Yeah.
I really think this is going to be an absolute hammering. I don't want it to be. I love Pittsburgh Steelers. I hope they win, but you're missing too many key. Your defense is what has always kept you in games. You've had a negative point differential for 3 years in a row now, and you've made the playoffs each time, which is.
But how predictable is it that they make the playoffs with a winning record with that? It's
how
just
people can be questioning Coach Tomlin is ridiculous in itself. But you're taking away the two main pieces of that defense in terms of the pass rush. It's only so far you can bend before you break, and I think they will break on Sunday.
Yeah.
Over to you, Jay.
Again, I'm going to start with a stat. So this is TJ Watt's career. Like, when the Steelers have TJ Watt on the field, they are 69, 36, and 2. When TJ Watt isn't playing, they are 1 and 10. Now, like, I never really liked the whole, we're going to look at one player and attribute the win-loss like we, often see with quarterbacks. But I just found this startling. Like, it really does paint the true picture about just how great TJ Watt is. Like, I actually think that he might be, I was thinking this the other day, he might be the best defensive player in the NFL still right now. I mean, he's just recorded the third season that he's led the league in sacks, and he's certainly not just about sacks. He can do everything. I honestly think that he is so great that he actually does make the Steelers defense look better than it probably really is.
Yeah.
And if he was playing in this game, the way I kind of look at it is that the Steelers would have a legitimate chance if the Bills play like they did last week. Because if that was the Steelers they were playing last week, I think the Steelers probably would have won the game, because they can take advantage. They're a better situational team than the Dolphins are. Like, if you give the Steelers 3-4 turnovers, well, they're going to punish you because they've got the know-how with Tomlin.
Yep.
But without TJ Watt, that's a bridge too far, I think, for me. If Minkah Fitzpatrick plays, then that is definitely a big deal. But he's missed a lot of games this year, and you know how much I love Minkah Fitzpatrick, but it's not been his best year. So I'm not really sold on the Bills because of the way they've kind of stumbled in the playoffs. Like, they've basically struggled the last 3 weeks, but obviously we are in the playoffs now. I hope to see the best of Josh Allen. I hope that others around him can contribute as well. James Cook had another drop touchdown last week. But as Paul said, the defense is playing, really well. I, mid-season, offered my apologies for basically criticizing them, over-criticizing them. They are definitely a good unit. So Bills are going to win this game, and I'm going to say Bills 24, Steelers 13. I don't think the Bills will play at their optimum best. There'll be some mistakes, but I think they cover. And I think the over-under is really low. I think it's like 36.5. So I guess I've got that just going over.
Both of us, but just over. But okay, now let's look at where we started things off at the beginning of the year. So I went with Pittsburgh going 10-7. But they go 11-6, didn't they?
No, bang on, 10-7.
10-7. There you go. Perfect. Boom. And they're playing Buffalo. I put them at 11-6. So not
They
too
finished-
bad.
Were
on
they
that.
11-6? They were 11-6.
I think they were 11 and
Yes, they
6.
were. I got
Yeah,
a
Bang on.
double whammy. There we go. Let's finish the show there. See you later. Right. Right. On to Paul. Paul, you had Pittsburgh at 9-8, and Jay, you had Buffalo at 11-6. So bang on. Sorry, Paul, you had Buffalo at 11-6. So bang on. Jay, you had Pittsburgh at 13-4, and Buffalo at 11-6. We all went 11-6 for Buffalo. So
does that mean we all had the Steelers making the playoffs then? We made the unpopular choice of many preseason.
Yeah. It looks like we did. Yeah.
So yeah, Vegas. Thinking back, Vegas again, because I remember Vegas had the Steelers win-loss at 8.5, which I remember. Like, really, 8.5.
I remember you putting that in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, that's. It's a long time to wait for money, but
it'll probably be that again next year.
Pre-season best bet, just go over on the Steelers. Like,
yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so now going on to the late game. We've got Chicago. Oh, sorry, not the late game. Sorry, the 9:30 p.m. game. We've got the Green Bay Packers at the Dallas Cowboys. Jay, sorry, Paul, who are you going with?
I think this is a great game. I think this is like not a sneaky good game. I think this is a really, really like great. I think this is the best game of the weekends. The Packers like are very impressive lately, and I watched their game against the Bears this past week. I've been impressed with the Bears, but I was so impressed with how the Packers handled playing against the Bears defense that is really aggressive and really like puts pressure on the other team's quarterback. And this, I want to say he's a kid. He's not a kid. What is he in year 3 now, Jordan? But it's really year 1. Year 1 starting, but year 3 for his NFL career. And he's mighty impressive lately. He's making throws. When you watch the throws that he's making off-balance throws. He's making throws on the run. He's making timing throws. He's throwing people open when they're not. It's not there. He has to anticipate where, trust the play design. He's been massively impressive. And this week against the Cowboys, I think it's quite a good matchup for the Packers because the Cowboys are so aggressive on defense, especially that corner who's leading the league in picks. He takes chances. I think the Packers are going to have some big plays this week. I think this is a really high-scoring game. I really want to pick the Packers, but I'm too scared to do it. I think Dallas are going to pull it out just. Over-under's 50. I'm going to say it goes over. I'm going to say it's 28-24 Cowboys in a heck of a game. And I think both quarterbacks, if you can get a bet on this is going back, this is you. I know you guys love these bets. This is going to be like Love and Prescott over 250. Give me 300. How brave do you want to go? And over total points. Yeah, 28-24 Cowboys. And yeah, for me, best game of the weekend.
I am going to look forward to watching this game. And I will hold my hand up. For many a time this year, I have questioned Jordan Love's ability. Over the course of this season, at the beginning of the year, I thought I was justified with everything I said. But as the season has progressed, he's turned me into a believer. Do I think he is going to be the potential of a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Probably not. Do I think he's a suitable quarterback to play for Green Bay and to give them a chance of winning? I think more than enough, good enough to do that. You put the right pieces around him. Paul mentioned it. He's got a good throwing motion. Seems to be good under pressure. He throws the wide receiver open. He doesn't do what we've seen with Bryce Young, waiting for the receiver to get open and then throwing it, and then the window's already closed. Throws on time. I like a lot of what I've seen, especially the last few weeks, because they've been pressure moments. They've had to win. But he's going into Dallas. What are they, 16 straight wins or something like that at home? I'm not sure if it's 17 or 16. Should have potentially lost to the Lions. So maybe it should be 15-1 at home. But you never know with this Dallas team, right? If there is a way that they can lose, you can be sure that Dallas will find that way. I don't think it will be this week. This is probably the best Dallas team, the most balanced Dallas team we've seen in many a year. Probably since the Des Bryant, was it a catch, wasn't it a catch game against the Seahawks. The CeeDee Lamb has been playing on a different level, probably been the best wide receiver in the league second half of the year since they lost to, who was it they lost to? The 49ers. Since they lost to the 49ers, I would say he's been the best wide receiver since then. His numbers have been absolutely ridiculous, week in, week out. And you're not going to cover him. They've got the O-line. Pollard is there, sufficiently putting up numbers on the ground, not blowing me away. And the defense is the defense, like Bland is finding the turnovers. He's done it all year. This is without Diggs, remember. Obviously, if he was there, it'd be a different story. And that pass defense, again, it's going to be so noisy in that Dallas stadium. I'm going with Dallas to win this game. I do think Reed will have a good game for the Packers. I really like him, player for the future. He's got it all. If he continues being in the right situation, he's going to have a bright future. But I'm going for Dallas to win. I'm not sure what the spread is. I'd imagine it's probably around six or seven. I don't know. Seven. So I will go with Dallas to cover the spread. Just I see it being something along the lines of 28-14. Dallas. I don't see it going over. I just see Dallas's defense shutting it down a bit, and Green Bay don't have a bad defense either. Not sure if Jair Alexander is he still? They suspended him, didn't they? But I don't think he's suspended for the playoffs. So
yeah, he's back in practice this week.
Cool. So that'd be a good matchup, Jair against CeeDee Lamb. But I see Dallas having too much, and Dallas to win. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, so Jordan Love finished the season with a touchdown interception ratio of 36-11. I said at the start of the year, I made a bold statement. I said that this was the most talented quarterback I'd seen since the Trevor Lawrence draft. And for the first half of the season, I had to eat crow because it wasn't very good. I think the first 8 games, the touchdown interception ratio was 14-8. So in the last 9 games, he's finished 22-3. And some of these games he's played, I mean, we're not talking like they're beating the Panthers. They're beating the Chiefs, where I think he had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He beat the brakes off his division rivals, the Lions, the Vikings. And I think all touchdowns that were thrown, I think he had 4 rushing. So of the 32 touchdowns, they were all to players in either their first year or their second year. So that just speaks to how young this group is. And I think that Jordan Love is now showing he is the player that I think he can be. The Packers don't really do a good job at ever giving you an all-time roster or a championship roster, in my opinion. So it is going to be a difficult road for him. But, I mean, Brock Purdy has had a great year. His touchdown interception ratio was 33-11. But there isn't a George Kittle on this team. There isn't a Deebo Samuel, a Brandon Ayuk, a Christian McCaffrey. So I give all credit to Jordan Love. And they are coming into the playoffs red hot, both on offense and on defense. But this is Jerry World. And the Cowboys, as we know, love playing here. 16 in a row at home. Can the Packers live with the speed? We've got CeeDee Lamb, as Rob said, probably the best receiver season overall, certainly to end. Brandon Cooks is a great number 2, really good number 2 to have. They tend to not give him that many targets, but every target is a chunk play. That's the only way they use him. I don't know how they're using Gallup, but again, that's another speed guy. And of course, Dak likes his tight end Ferguson. The disappointing thing for Dallas, though, is their run game, interestingly. Pollard has not been what he was. And, that really that's always been the Packers' Achilles heel, hasn't it? Yeah. They'll have this odd game where we let the running backs go for 200 plus. I don't see that happening in this game. And they're pretty good against the pass. I mean, I do want to see Jair Alexander out there because they've been sort of living without him. They will need him this week. They've also been dealing without Christian Watson, who I don't know can make it because it is a hamstring. But that would be a massive deal for them to have him back on the field, given the emergence of Reed, because Romeo Doubs has been a bit hit and miss, but Reed has been the home run. We've seen Love throw deep to him many times. The Packers have never lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs. The Cowboys are on a 16-0 run at home. Something has to give. This is as crazy as it gets because I feel like the Packers could get blown out here, like heavily, like a reality check. But I say go, Pack, go. I think this game's going to be crazy, and it gives Jordan Love the opportunity to have a vintage moment very early in his career. I say Packers 27, Cowboys 24. So wow. Packers cover, and it's over the 50.
Wow. Big predictions there. Right. So going on to where we had. So I had Green Bay. This is shocking. I had Green Bay going 4-13. After the first 8 games, I actually thought it was going to look very good. And I had Dallas go 13-4. So 1 game off there. Paul, you had Green Bay going 9-8. So bang on with Green Bay. And Dallas, you had going 10-7. So 2 off with Dallas. And Jay, you had Green Bay going 10-7, so 1 off, and Dallas going 14-3, 2 off there. So not a million miles away apart from my Green Bay one. So I think we should change the subject very quickly on that front. So now going to the late Sunday night UK time, Monday morning game of the LA Rams at the Detroit Lions. Now for me, this is the game I'm looking forward to most. It was between this one in Green Bay and Dallas, and I really couldn't choose. But there's so many sort of backstories to it that, I can't wait to watch this game. But Paul, do you want to start us off with your thoughts on Rams at Detroit?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think this is a great matchup. The weakness of each team seems to play into the strength of the other team. So that leads me to think this is going to be a heck of a high-scoring game. The Lions, like in true Dan Campbell style, played hard in a pretty meaningless game last week, lost Sam Laporta, which could really hurt them this week. They lost Raymond as well, who's like a sneaky good punt returner and not a bad third down receiver. They've got 3 O-linemen that should make it, but they're kind of banged up, the Lions. The Rams, I don't know. We're going to come to it, but I don't know really what to make of the Rams, because before the season, I don't think any of us would have had them making the playoffs whatsoever. But then we didn't know about, the rookie sensation that has arrived in Puka Nacua. Like, where on earth did he come from? I think the Rams have maxed out this year based on what was expected of them, the talent on this roster. They're extremely top heavy in Cooper Kupp and Donald and Stafford, and there's not a heck of a lot of talent elsewhere, but maybe bar this rookie in Puka Nacua. I like the Lions. I always have liked the Lions this year. I like the attitude of this team. I like how aggressive they are. I really like the running game that they have. I think the Lions win a very high-scoring game. I think they're going to run the crap out of the football on the Rams this week, especially with Sam Laporta being down. I'm not going to get caught up in the Stafford back to Detroit storyline, although the Lions secondary is no good. That is a concern. Aiden Hutchinson needs to pressure Matt Stafford. I think that they will do enough. I think they'll just outlast the Rams in kind of a back and forth, high scoring game, bit of a shootout. Give me the Lions 34. Screw it. 34-31 Lions. Really high scoring game. Heck of a game to watch. I think the Lions are going to win their first playoff game since 1992. Ridiculous.
Yeah, well, is Laporta out? Because I've got him as questionable.
He's not practiced. But
he's like questionable, doubtful, I'd say.
Right, okay. Because
if you saw the injury, he's not going to make it.
It looked horrible, didn't it? It didn't look good. And it was quite quick, wasn't it? The Raymond and Laporta both happened, I swear, within a few plays of each other as well. It's like, maybe it weren't a good idea playing the starters that week. But
the only thing I'll say is that they had to, because if some miracle happened in Washington, they could have got the number 2 seed. But it was a long shot. I
agree. I would play the starters. I always think like you play to prevent an injury, you're probably going to get injured. Like it's you could get injured in training just as easy as you can in a match. So I think there's nothing better than winning. Just having that winning feeling going into a playoff week is much better than going in having lost to Minnesota. I do have a lot of similar feelings to what you have, Paul. I see this being a high-scoring game. When I just look at it, at the teams without looking into detail, I think, right, Detroit win this game. But I see Detroit winning. But then when I look into a bit more depth, and I think, man, this Detroit secondary is going to get eaten alive by 2 incredible route runners in Kupp and Nacua. They are going to get theirs. I think I wouldn't be surprised if both of them went over 100 yards on the game. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them got close to 200. Like that, they are just different level. Some players are just incredible at running routes, and to have both of them in the same team, I don't see how this Lions defense stops them. Stafford going home, he'll want to put on a show, no doubt about that. He is a bit of a gunslinger. Then I look at Detroit, they're going to be able to run the ball. I think they'll be able to pass it as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I haven't seen anyone shut him down. last week had quite a few receptions. What was it? About 144 yards. I think he was trying to prove a point about the All-Pro selections being left out. Personally, I think Nakua's had a great year. I would have put Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of Nakua, but other people are different. That's fine. It's very close between the two either way. And I think he'll still have that chip on his back. He'll be like, right, they picked this guy in front of me. We're playing against them now. Let's see what I can do. So I'm a bit like when we had Des Bryant against Megatron all them years ago. Even though it's a bit stupid because you're not actually playing each other, but you just want to put up the numbers to show that you are better. Who do I think is going to win this game? I think it comes down to who has the ball last. That will probably be who wins the game. You can put, from a coaching standpoint, I like McVay. Not that I don't like Campbell. Man, I've been bigging him up all year from week one. But McVay has the experience. He's been there. He's coached players in the playoffs, Super Bowl win, Super Bowl loss. And you've got Aaron Donald. He's not maybe the Aaron Donald that we remember, but he's still a beast and someone that no offensive line wants to come up against. I'm going to go with Detroit to win. And now I've said it, I don't actually like the fact that I've said it, but the fact that they can run the ball and they can control the clock a little bit better if they choose. I do see this game quite similar to you, Paul, where it could go a bit crazy, because I wouldn't be surprised if Goff started to try and have a competition with Stafford as well, if Stafford does what I expect and put in silly numbers up. My concern is that Goff isn't Matthew Stafford, and if he tries too much, he will get found out before Stafford does, in my opinion, purely based off of the defensive players covering the receivers. So, in a very long-winded explanation, I am going to go Detroit to win, and I'm going to say they win 34-31. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, so this for me is my favorite game of the week, just edging the Packers-Cowboys game. I mean, that back-to-back on Sunday is going to be insane, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Stafford's Rams, Goff's Lions. Who won the trade? Well, I think both of them, really. They both came out very well in this trade. All credit to Goff. As much as I like the Lions and their aggressiveness, I also don't like it all the time. There's just been a few moments like for instance, the Cowboys game. You've played a really hard game for 3 hours, and you're going to just decide it on one play. It's just not my cup of tea, really, because I almost feel like they are worried about their weaknesses. Because if that was a different team, the Ravens, for example, we're going to tie the game, and we're very confident that we can go into overtime and win this game.
That's study.
To me, it smells like the Lions didn't feel like that. They're like, let's try and win it now, because our defense will get exposed again if they win the toss. And just things like just the lack of maturity at times. I'm thinking in the playoffs there will be no fake punts from the 30-yard line, because if you get those wrong in the playoffs, we know how brutal and costly turnovers are. Like, it's not the regular season. Every turnover is magnified. So I guess I'm just a bit concerned about, the Lions' decision-making more than anything in this game. But they certainly have the weapons, even with the great Samuel Joseph Laporta missing. What a year for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown went over 1,500 yards in the end. He is like a yards after catch dream. Like, he would love to be in the 49ers, for example, because he'll give you the maximum that you can get on any given play. And the run game, I mean, it's my favorite duo, I'd say, in the league in terms of running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. That's like the complete package that you could ask for. But as a 49ers fan, I've got to say the scariest team in the NFC for me somehow is the Rams. Like, they are, again, red hot. They've won, 5 out of 6. Their only loss in that period was to the Ravens
in overtime,
in a great game on a kick return, dream way to win a game. But they ran the number 1 seed Ravens all the way. I don't think any of us could have seen that happening. And you look at their weapons, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and this running back, Kyron Williams. Like, the Lions have shown a lot this year. They can't stop anything at times. Like, they can really look like one of the worst defenses in the league, to be honest. So I only see one way with this. As you guys have said, a wild, high-scoring game. I've written down the score here. I've got 31-27, and I've got it going to the Rams. So Rams win, Rams cover, and it's over.
What is the over-under and for the game?
I had it at 51.5, but it might have changed.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, it's still 51.5.
Cool. Right, so let's see. This is another one that isn't going to be one of my greatest moments for what I had. The Rams. I had the Rams at 3-14. They finished 10-7. So next, Detroit. I had them finishing 12-5. So I was bang on with Detroit. Paul, you had the Rams at 6-11. So not very good, but considerably better than mine. And you had Detroit at 9-8. Jay, you had the Rams at 2-15. And you had Detroit at 9-8 as well. So at least I'm not the only one that's had a few mares in these predictions. But now going into the last wild card game of the weekend. On Monday, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One of the most intriguing games for me, for different reasons. But Paul, who are you going with in this game?
I'm picking Tampa. And I don't think it's an upset. I think based on what I've seen recently from Philadelphia, they've got a terrible, terrible defense, Philadelphia. If they don't get home with the pass rush, then the back seven that they have, the linebackers and secondary, are no good whatsoever. And I think that's very bad news against Tampa and Mike Evans. Because Baker will stand in there in the face of a pass rush, and he'll keep throwing it. I think Philadelphia, Rob mentioned earlier on about the Steelers having like a negative points differential. Do the Eagles have a negative points differential with a winning record? If they don't, I think it's going to be close because
they hammered a few teams at the beginning of the year, didn't they? So that's probably worked in their favour. But I'll have to check that because I don't know.
Have a positive points differential of 5 points.
Wow. So a lot closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, +5. And they're +5 wins and they're +5 points on the season. So, yeah, this defense is no good. But they are going on the road to the Bucs, who are the worst division winner in the NFC. So if they had a game, if they had an opponent, if they could handpick an opponent being a wild card, it would be Tampa. I can't pick the Eagles just based on what I've seen. I mean, to lose to the Giants the way that they did, and it weren't even close. They got absolutely whooped by the Giants. Yeah, I think it's exposed the coaching. It's exposed the play calling. I think they got away with a few things earlier in the season, and I think they're now being found out. I don't know, is AJ Brown going to play after going down this past week?
His good friend Deebo Samuel, apparently, who they talk to every other day, says that he's gonna play.
Okay, because again, like Sam Laporta, that looked like a pretty brutal injury when he went down. Yeah, I can't pick the Eagles. Just can't do it. I mean, every part of this team seems to be falling apart. The coaching, the defense, the offense. Now you can't. Now that Devonta Smith is hurt, then you can just try to take away AJ Brown, and Jalen Hurts is not quietly. I think it's pretty obvious he's not had a good season. If you take away all the talk about, oh yeah, well, he's really good at like quarterback sneaking it for 2 yards, have a look at the guy's stats. Do you want to have this contract? I wouldn't want to have this contract. I'd rather be starting again. Yeah, I can't pick the Eagles. I think the Bucks, and I hope the Bucks, because I think they deserve it. And I want Baker Mayfield to win a game like this. And I think he deserves to win a game like this. And I think he will. I'm going Tampa 21, Philadelphia 17. I think it'll be fairly low scoring. I think Mike Evans is going to have a big game.
Cool. Yeah, this Eagles team, we shouldn't really be surprised with it. When you even go back to the first few weeks of the year, a lot of us put them as our number one team in the NFC. But we always said from week one, something's not right. They're not clicking. And I think we all just presumed that they would work it out eventually and they would get back to the performance that the players on paper should be. And they've regressed, if anything. Like they started off the year maybe with the belief, but not the performance. And now they're not getting the performance and they've lost the belief. You look at, they've lost 4 of the last 5, lost to Dallas, lost to Seattle, lost to Arizona, lost to the Giants. Like outside of Dallas, they're not electrifying teams that we're talking about here. And yeah, I don't know what's wrong with this Philadelphia team. The defense shouldn't be as bad as it is with the players that they've got. They're loaded in most positions. Like none of it makes sense. But what I won't do, Tampa haven't been very good the last 2 weeks. They were pretty poor against New Orleans. They only put some points up when the game was done, basically. Otherwise, it would have been a right old hammering. Carolina, they won 9-0. No touchdowns. And against, the worst team in the NFL. It was a bit of a swirling wind, but Mayfield looks like he's hurt more seriously than what maybe we're being told. I think he isn't moving right. You can tell just from his demeanor, it's painful. And I think that is impacting his throws because he did have Evans on a couple of throws early in the Carolina game that he just missed. So again, similar to the Miami Chiefs game, I almost feel like both teams are limping into the playoffs. And it's more so going to be who's the last man standing. God, I love the matchup of Mike Evans on that secondary. Equally, I like the matchup if AJ Brown's healthy on the Tampa Bay secondary. Who do I pick? You know, like this game must be close to a pick'em. Is it? What's the spread?
2.5 in favor of the Eagles.
Eagles. Wow. I will go with the Eagles to win. I don't know why. There's no logic behind it. I just will do what I've been doing from week one, and I will say that they will be a bit better this week. If they were playing someone other than the Bucks, I probably would go with a different team, but the Bucks are struggling as much, it appears, as the Eagles. I see it being a relatively low scoring game. I'm going to go with 20 to 14 Philadelphia. What about you, Jay?
This one is very intriguing for very different reasons to the other games. Like, you usually save the best till last, but I feel like this will be quite ugly overall, potentially. The Eagles are heavily banged up. Like, Devonta Smith couldn't go. AJ Brown, terrible knee injury. And then Jalen Hurts, that was a horrific finger injury.
Finger, yeah.
Yeah. So that will affect his, 1 week is not enough. Like, there will be some impact on his ability to throw, which hasn't been very good as of late anyway. And then, like, even Slay's carrying an injury. The safety Blankenship, I feel like, has carried an injury or a different injury every week for the last however many weeks. They're not very good at stopping the pass. They're not very good at passing the ball. It's the same old story with the Eagles. But as you said, Rob, the Buccaneers haven't exactly come in on fire themselves after a good spell. They had a very good spell at one point. And then they got brought back to earth with the Saints, and then, kind of just stumbled past the Panthers. They're a team that will overemphasize the run, which, like, to stop the run. So it's quite interesting. The Eagles want to run. The Bucs want to stop the run. The Eagles aren't very good at passing. The Bucs, they're not great at stopping the pass either. So it's fascinating to see how this game goes. I think it's going to have to be a very pass-heavy game because both teams will slam that door. I don't know. This is tricky. I kept saying for a long time that the Eagles would have the chance to reset, and even I don't believe that now. But this kind of gives them that chance to sort of say, like the season's over now. This is a new season. Can the Eagles basically reset against a reasonably good team, but certainly not a great team in the Buccaneers? As great as Mike Evans is, as good as Baker has played at times, they're not a great team overall, I'd say. Like, I definitely see Mike Evans having a massive game. I am going to give the Eagles one last chance to reset themselves. And I say that they keep their season alive for at least one more week. Eagles 24, Bucs 21.
Okay. And that's it. That's the NFL wildcard selections done. Thanks for your time, guys. Before we go, believe you got the numbers behind you, Jay, for how the season finished for the predictions.
I don't, but I kind of know where I kind of know where we were. I think it was like, I finished, I want to say 191 to 81.
Give me 1 minute. I've got it.
Yep.
One sec. All right. So here we go. Okay. So the official 2023 NFL standings. Paul, you were 163 wins to 93 losses. Just to give you some examples, NBC's Chris Sims had 160 wins, so you're 3 ahead of him. NBC's Florio had 160 wins. You finished 3 ahead of him. The best on ESPN had 163, so you're level pegging there. And NFL Network's best was 166, so 3 off there. I came second with a 165 win, 91 losses. And our winner for 2023 with 169 wins. So this is more than any of the so-called pros, any of the specialists, bar one, the seer of Michael Irvin of NFL Game Time is the only one. I don't know what he finished on. I just know that he started week. What did he? Sorry, he started week 18 with 174 wins. So sorry, I've given the wrong ones, haven't I? Fuck.
I thought we missed a week.
We missed a week.
Yeah, because
I can't be asked to do it again. But yeah, you won, Jay. Well done. You put it on Instagram already.
Do you guys have any best bets for this wildcard weekend?
I've just wrote down 2 actually. Just that,
we can go for that. I haven't looked yet because I've literally had 2 back-to-back calls, and then I haven't had a chance to look. But yeah, do you start with your best bet, Paul, and then it gives me time to have a look because I've got an idea of what I want to bet.
Okay, cool. Right, NFL wildcard weekends. I've got 2 player prop bets for you in what I predict to be a really high-scoring game. Jordan Love over 246.5 passing yards. I can't. I'm not going to say it's definite, but I think I like that number. And Amon-Ra St. Brown scrimmage yards. So yeah, they get him involved in a multitude of different ways. 91.5 scrimmage yards go over with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay, perfect. Jay, what you got?
Yeah, so I also have some, I guess, prop specials. But just so that I'm not left out on Sunday, my best bet for Sunday is Rams plus 3.5 because I think the Rams are going to win. But yeah, Saturday, I have got 2 player props, or specials, shall we say. CJ Stroud and playoff Joe Flacco, both over 250 passing yards, and both with 2 or more passing touchdowns. You can get that at 6-1. So I think that's definitely worthy of a shot. I've been pretty good with these this year.
You have.
Don't want to jinx it, but I've been pretty good with these. And then I have basically a 2-game special on the Saturday night. It is Amari Cooper, Nico Collins, Rashee Rice, and Tyreek Hill, all over 75 yards. It's a bit of a long shot because of the cold weather in Kansas City, but you can get that one at 8-1.
Love it. Okay, so I am going to go with, I love a player prop. So I've got a treble on the player prop front here. So I'm going to go with, I've just lost it. Sorry, 1 second. I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown over on the receiving yards, which is 89.5. I think, well, he comes in pretty much every game that I've gone over on him this year. CD Lamb has ridiculously high numbers over the last few weeks, but he's still got over every week. 98.5 receiving yards. Last week, I was worried because the Cowboys were up comfortably. The Eagles were getting hammered. And I had CD Lamb over 90. What was it? 96 or 95.5. He was on 92. And I was like, they're not going to run it, and they're not going to throw it anymore, or they're going to sit him out. And then he got a nice 4 or 5 yard reception, got him over. But he's 98.5 for this weekend. I see him getting that. And then the last of the three is Mike Evans. My lovely Mike Evans. I've always added him on my player props. Over 66.5 yards. That treble gets you 5.16 to 1. If you want to add a bit more value to that, I would go with adding either Nakua or Cup on the over in the Lions game. I'm not sure what numbers they're at, but that both of them probably would add quite a good bit of value and very likely going to come in. So that's my best bet for playoff week.
What's your favourite spread of the week, Rob?
Bills. I really like the Bills at -10.